Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur dAlene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
Welcome to our program. We're very honored today to have three very, very special guests who are actors and actresses, and they perform in many ways. And we want to thank Tom Kellogg and Myra Donnelly from the Mentor Artist Playwright Project in Los Angeles for providing today's guests, and we're just delighted to have them here. I'll do a very brief introduction because we want to take the time to learn a lot about them. I welcome to the program, first of all, is dAlene Mendoza. She's a winner of the Obie-winning actress whose recent television appearances included Crossing Jordan and many others. Welcome. You just have such an impressive background.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Well, you honor us with your presence. And our second guest is Samuel Red Running Bear Savage, who is equally prominent in the field. He's an actor, singer, dancer, and he's going to be in a movie that's just being released called Beverly Hills. And he's been on many other movies and television programs. And Red Running Bear, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Equally delighted to have you here. And our third guest is Leilona John, who is an internationally known solo performing artist. And you two come to us with incredible credentials. And she was awarded the Brody Fellowship for Performing Arts and many other awards. You are just a wonderfully successful group, and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And as always, I'm pleased to have our two panelists, Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in the state of Idaho, and next to her is Erna Reinhardt, who's Director of Public Relations at North Idaho College, and Janelle will commence today's questioning.
Welcome to the program. It's a great honor to have all three of you here. We'll start the questioning today with Leilona. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be interested in being an actress? Maybe there was a time when you were influenced as a young person, and now you're in turn influencing the children in schools today with your acting. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background?
I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, and there's a great theater tradition in Honolulu that I don't think people know about on the continent. There's a Honolulu Theater for Youth, which does youth programming that goes into the schools and does youth theater, and there's Kumukuhua Theater, which is a community theater, but it's dedicated to local playwrights. So there's plays by people who are from Hawaii or about Hawaii. And then also the drama department at the University of Hawaii at Manoa has an incredible program, and they're known for Asian theater, like kabuki and Beijing opera. And I grew up going to all three of those theaters from when I was really small. So for me, theater was a multicultural experience. I saw people that looked like me on stage my whole life. And then when I went away to college on the East Coast, I found out that that tradition isn't in the rest of the states. And so I became really passionate about doing multicultural theater through that. Yeah.
Can you tell us, Red, about your background and what might have interested you in the multicultural theater?
Many things, actually. I didn't grow up in a very financially stable environment, but regardless of our finances, we always had music. My mother and my grandmother, both natives, were very big into music. So I just kind of took to it as a child. And when I was, I think when I was in 5th grade, we were doing some kids performance at some mall, some local mall, and somebody saw me in the audience and said, wow, that little kid's got a kind of a nice voice. Maybe he'll come and sing at our convention. And so they told my teacher who is one of the biggest influences for me becoming an actor and teacher / mentor, because she always introduced music into the classroom, not like a music teacher, but she just wanted us to know how important music is and how important the arts is in everybody's life and how far it could take you with your studies, you know, your scholastic studies with math and science and English and that. And from her, her name was Debbie Brummagem, it just evolved. And I went on to have 2 more teachers, Donna White and Stephen Bayless, who were mainstays in my life. They said you could be anything you want to be, you can do anything you want to do, and you have a God-given talent that you should use. And so here I am.
You are.
Here I am.
What a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what about you, Sela?
Well, I was first introduced into the theater in actually Tucson, Arizona, at Pima Community College. It's on the Pima Reservation. And my mother was very interested in arts and possibly becoming an actress, and she took me along with her. I was about 7 years old, and we couldn't afford babysitters or anything. And I got really turned on to theater there. We did a production of the Caucasian Chalk Circle together, and I thought it was just such a great way to communicate and tell stories. I just was fascinated by the process. And later when we went to Los Angeles, that continued. I went to theater companies with her and performed in plays with her, and people like, I don't know if you'll know any of these people, Bill Bushnell, and just people that are very active in theater in Los Angeles. And just carried that through up into adulthood. And I'm interested in inspiring other kids to be able to use their voice in that way and tell their stories.
Thank you. Thank
dAlene, I want to start with you on this round of questions, but the three of you are here this week because you just spent some time with the Coeur d'Alene tribe and the youth at the Coeur d'Alene tribe working on a project. So I just want each of you perhaps to tell us what part you played in that project and what the project entailed.
Well, Myra and Tom came in earlier than us, and they actually had been here last year doing work with 7th and 8th graders at the tribal school. And we came in over the last 4 days of 4 days of the project or so, and we were mentors in the workshop, and we helped workshop pieces that the students wrote themselves. And we then did stage readings of their work, and we did work that they did this time, and we also did some pieces from last year.
Excellent. Yeah. Red, do you have anything to add?
No, I think, more so than anything, bringing the actors from Los Angeles, not only is it cool for the kids because they're like, oh, you're in Hollywood, but I think a big part of the mentor program, especially for places like the Coeur d'Alene Tribal School, is just to have other natives around Native children, just to give them something positive to look at, because a lot of our youth, we don't have a lot of positive images, and that usually steers us in the wrong direction. And having the mentor program, it allows us to say, hey, you've got some talent, you can use that talent and go a lot of places with it. You don't have to be stifled for where you are just because of your situation currently. And we have a big part in that, and we get a lot back from them. Actually, we get a lot from them actually. So it's an equal little playing field that we have.
Great. And Sela, did you work in small groups or one-on-one, or how was that interaction?
We did. It was mostly one-on-one. We paired up with another child, and it was just wonderful to see them slowly open up to the process and really pull from some deep places within themselves to create the stories that we later read.
And then did it culminate in a performance?
We did. We did a reading for the students at the gym, and then we went to the museum in Spokane and did a performance there for the community, and the kids participated the whole way through. They sat up on stage with us while we read their work and then took a bow, and it really opened them up to feeling proud about sharing their voice.
Awesome.
Last year when Tom and Myra brought this year, we had 6, excuse me, I've lost my voice today, as you can tell. And we had performances at North Idaho College, and again, it was powerful. The kids had written the productions, and then the actors were performing. I just thought the students were just lighting up with such pride. We'll reverse this time so you don't go last each time, Sela.
I don't mind.
Well, you're also wonderful. I want you to take your experience in your acting, and I know in your case that you've certainly done a lot of stage and other things too. Would you be willing to take an experience within your life that you've had that's particularly inspired you so much of your professional work? And I guess what I'm getting to is we hear so much about math and science and all of those things in a curriculum, but the arts and humanities are terribly important, and sometimes that's the first ones to lose dollars when there's a cutback. Mm-hmm. Would you share with our audience how you've been so inspired and take one of your work to say, wow, that's an important part of our life?
To take one of the projects that I've done, and
right.
I think Living Out would be the project that was most inspiring to me and made me want to continue doing theater. I had an opportunity to immerse myself in the Salvadoran population in Los Angeles and really learn their history and do interviews with people from all ages from El Salvador. It was a play about a woman who came to the United States, educated woman, and then had to, take work as a nanny. And it gave voice to a group of people that haven't really been recognized in the community prior, and it created dialogue amongst the classes and the races, the cultures, because they're hired by American women who are professionals and don't necessarily consider their journey. And there were lots of articles written about the play, and we took it to New York later, and again, lots of articles written in the LA Times, and Lisa Loomer is just a wonderful writer, and I had a fantastic experience with her.
A follow-up with you is that I'm a great believer in the arts and the humanities. I think they're very powerful. So am I correct to say that most of all areas that we look at, the arts and humanities have done the most for our cultural diversity and learning to appreciate, just like you did in this experience?
I think so. I think it's a great opportunity to give voice to stories that don't often get heard, and I think that's why we do it, and that's why we continue to do it and come into the communities in the hopes that, there'll be a new generation of stories that people are unaware of otherwise.
Red Running Bear, I ask you the same question. Take something in your.
You can call me Red
experience.
if you want.
Okay.
Red's fine.
And if you would give us a similar experience you've had and how that not only broadened your appreciation experience of variety and cultures, but also how it affects the whole population. Let me just preface that further. I think motion pictures done an awful lot to teach tolerance and celebration.
Right.
In the Heat of the Night was a good example. A
Right.
friend of mine was involved in that. And I think we make a lot of progress in something I'm interested in, human rights, through motion pictures, for example.
In motion pictures.
And theater, and all areas of the arts and humanities.
Right. I think probably one of the most greatest experiences that I've had as an artist is I went on a tour to mainland China, and I stayed there for a year in mainland China. And the parts of China that we were in were so, in our minds or in America's mind, would be behind the times. They still plowed their field with oxen, and they still washed their clothes on rocks in the middle of the water and stuff like that. So, to our standards, it would be a little bit different. But to see their eyes open, to see Americans come to their country and give them a piece of the world through story, like Celia was saying, was very, very touching to me, because a lot of those people would never have that experience had we not been on tour, because they don't make a lot of money, and they were spending upwards of 2 months' salary just to see one performance. To us, that's like 2 months of mortgage payment. That's a lot of money. And so for them, that's like a lifetime of savings. Some of them, but because of the arts, it has inspired a lot of them to say, you know what, there doesn't need to be ethnic boundaries with everyone, because if you can have it in this arts, creating all this beautiful work, then you should be able to have it in the world. And a lot of them gave that back to us, and that was probably one of my best experiences.
And a follow-up is, too, that I've often thought of music as the international language. We certainly use that in civil rights. So, and that's part of course, the arts, humanities. Music can be a great builder of bridges, can it not?
Correct. A huge builder. A huge builder. Just because just for an example, we had a private moment with the actors where we were absorbing this beautiful state that we're in, Idaho, and we were brought more into the moment because one of us had a song that was a prayer that just linked us to Mother Earth, and it was probably one of our best moments on the trip, aside from working with the kids.
I would say linking you to the Mother Earth, but into one another.
Yeah, we've already been connected. We've been connected since we got there, but just it was linking us with this whole amazing experience that we've been on since we got here. Meeting the kids and doing the work that we created, and working with Tom and Myra and Steve. And basically becoming family and becoming one with each other and one with Mother Earth.
Thank you very much. Leilani, the same kind of question. You've taken one of your professional experiences. You've already done a beautiful job talking about how you grew up in the field, but tell us how one of those not only impacted you, but is a real bridge with society in general.
I'm always into the project I'm doing or the next project. So the project I'm working on with my husband is called Refugee Nation, and we got a Rockefeller grant last year to begin the project, and we're continuing it, and it's turning into a several-year project. And we're collecting oral histories from Laotian refugees and their descendants and creating a theater piece out of that work, and looking at intergenerational issues that have come up from the several generations of refugees who had escaped Laos after the Vietnam War, because Laos was pulled in through a secret war, an illegal war, primarily pulled in by the US and Vietnam to help either sides. And so communism and anti-communism bled into Laos. And the project is really exciting to me because it not only talks about the communities that were created here in the US and are citizens of the US and are actually a result of US involvement in war in foreign countries, and also connecting to the fact that Laos still hasn't recovered from that time, and there are unexploded ordinances there that haven't been cleaned up. And so we're connecting communities that exist in our country, all over the country, especially in rural areas. We've been doing these interviews around the country and for us it connects to things that are happening right now for us to be aware of. Yeah.
I just want to say to all three of you, it's really, really special. You are really enriching our society, you and other artists like yourself. Janelle Burke.
Let's start with Red this time, and we'll ask him the first question, then follow with dAlene, and then Sela. But my question has to do with, as I understand it, you were writing stories with the students, or you were encouraging them to tell their story. Red, did you have a favorite story? One of the students gave you a story that you thought was just terrific.
Being in this program, you're always surprised at how creative the young mind can actually be. So I wouldn't say that I would have a favorite, because they all have something different to tell, and this mentor program allows them to just tap into that just a little bit for a little while and tell these most incredible stories about friendship and love and death and life and spirituality that you would think wouldn't come out of a 12, 13-year-old children. So I wouldn't say that I definitely have a favorite, because I was able to take a little piece of greatness from each one of their writings, and that was,
How about you, dAlene?
I would never pick a favorite. They were all really incredible.
How about one interesting one?
They're all really incredible and for different ways, and and what was interesting is the way that the characters are created through the style of workshop that Tom leads. They are asked to create characters that are based on animals or special objects, personal objects, and they create characters out of that. And what was really exciting for me as an actor was to think of, okay, what would an eagle, how would an eagle talk to her friend about teddy bears? And that was really exciting to me, because what was interesting is that these characters really expressed what middle school kids are going through, and somehow, some way, a middle school conflict might have arisen because they were taught about how to you have to have good conflict in order to create good drama. So they had to put in create two characters and put in a conflict, or within the monologues they had to put in a problem, and the character has to solve that problem. And it was just really interesting, the creative ways that they were able to come up with these characters who actually had real life experiences in some ways.
Was there an animal that consistently showed up, would you say, or an object that consistently showed up?
Hummingbirds.
I think hummingbirds were.
Hummingbirds and coyote, I think, maybe. And what was one of the monologues I had was a CD player, and it didn't get into the monologue, but they had to do background on the monologue, on the character, and her background was, her uncle or something, or her parents, the tape something, so she really got that the CD player was the modern kid, and the tape thingy was, the parent or the grandparent or something, and it was just really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sela, how about you?
I think that what was interesting to me is the theme of loss of family was kind of common. And a lot of them were really trying to deal with that in this process. My the girl I worked with chose a hummingbird, and she had lost her entire family, and was finding a special place to create some happiness in her life. When her friends got called away to go do something special with their family, she had to find her own sanction, her own happiness in this sort of sanctuary that she created. But then the other kids read their pieces out loud, and that was a common thing they were all dealing with. So I found that really interesting.
But they're comedians at heart, most of them. Some of the wit. The wit.
So fast.
Oh my gosh, they're so quick-witted. Quick-witted. I mean, we have one of our writers, Armando, we were reading one of his plays that he had written last year, and just the way he wrote it, we thought he was channeling The Godfather, just because it was written very, very, Italian-esque, so to speak. But the dialogue that he used, which some of we were like, what does that mean? And he was like, it means what it means. Okay, right, we'll go with that. It means what it means. And he had this line where it says, do you want to mess with Big Papa Pa? Armando, what is Big Papa Pa? It's Big Papa Pa. Okay, Armando, we got it. We'll run with that one.
Thank you.
Erna Reinhardt.
Leilani, could you share with us, and you guys just did this a little bit, but were there some interactions that occurred between the students themselves that maybe weren't an expected outcome, but maybe, I'm just thinking of, maybe the underdog that kind of made a new friend through the week or something like that. Is there any stories like that to share that went beyond maybe the actual project, but maybe some new bonds that happened amongst themselves? Anything like that came out of this project?
I mean, the first thing that came to mind was that we did the performance for the whole school. And I think just seeing the kids watching us read for the rest of the school, and them hearing the rest of the students laughing and reacting, and even at some point, the younger ones talking back, because I think a hummingbird said something like, hummingbirds like flowers, don't they? And the little kids are like, yeah, and just seeing the playwrights, the 7th and 8th graders' faces as they saw that their what they wrote in actually over 2 days really actually could be performed, and that they could really be role models for the rest of the school because they're the older kids in the school. That was really powerful for me, and we got to go say goodbye today, and some of the younger ones were having lunch, and they're like, yeah, I remember when you were, I like the play about the teddy bears, and I like the play of, I remember this, and I remember that, and being able to go back to the 8th graders saying, hey, look what you wrote. You really influenced the younger kids, and you guys were role models and kind of dealt with some issues that really spoke to them. I think that was really incredible.
Great.
Yeah.
Red, do you have anything to add?
I think what I remember the most is the growth with most of the kids, because we walked into the class and they were all very, in their shell, and no one wanted to blossom. But by the end of the first day, it was a complete 360. I actually had one kid tell me today that he said, I really thought I had no friends, but after I saw you guys, I realized I do have a few friends here in this school. And I was like, wow. It's the twins. It was the twins. Yeah, it was the twins. The little ones. And they weren't even a part of our project. But because they were so inspired by what the older kids had done, it just made them realize that, hey, maybe things aren't so bad. And he was like, yeah. And the guy across from me, he was like, I'm definitely your friend. I was like, okay, then it works. All right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sela, anything to add?
I don't have anything to add to that question.
Those are great answers. Thank you.
After 2 years of this program, and like I said, we got to see the students last year that had written it, and they were up on stage, and we saw how it sparked them and the pride they had. Native Americans have some wonderful things in the culture. One of them is they have great respect for the people, and there's at times some shyness, and you mentioned that, and reserved at times. But and I'll start with this time with Sela. After these performances and working with them, you can see them just open up more. Isn't that correct? And some things already been said here, but how they would express themselves more, even verbally, after doing this exercise.
Well, yeah, one girl in particular, Sophia, had gone through the process last year, and she had a play prepared that she wrote on her own to bring to the group this year, and she was very proud of it and gave it to Tom and Myra right away, and it was a fantastic piece. And from what I understand, they said she was one of the more reserved students last year, and she completely grew from the experiences and inspired to continue writing. And
Red, I would ask you too that last year the actors told us that they had some real emotional moments, the students, particularly when they were leaving, you know, like they really hated to leave them. Did you experience that again this year?
Oh yeah, we at the end of when we're saying goodbye, Tom does a group circle where we all get to step forward and say, you know, what we got out of this experience, or say thank you. And they got to me, and I actually stepped forward and say, you know what, I can't really say anything because I'm a big wuss and I'll start crying because it's just amazing how people who come from different backgrounds, regardless of skin color, can make such a connection so quickly, and we've really made that connection with the kids, and so it was really, really emotional. You know, even the kids that we didn't work with. I mean, we walk in the cafeteria, and all the little kindergartens, all they want to do is come up and give us a hug, and we've spent all of maybe like 5 minutes with them, but they made some connection in that 5 minutes that we'll take with us for the rest of our lives.
Leilani, also the same experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important is that, and we were talking about it in the car as we're driving around, you know, doing our activities with, you know, preparing for the students and taking them around. That you know, a lot of kids will ask, what movie have you been in, or what television show have you been in? And I always say, you know, that's the work we do for income. That's not the work we do for love. And this is the kind of work we do for love. And I think it's because if you grow up and you don't see yourself anywhere, you don't see yourself on television or anyone who looks like you in the movies, and if you do, they're not necessarily positive. That's why this work is powerful. And it starts with first seeing someone that looks like you, reflecting a story, but then when you find out that you have power as a voice and that people will be interested if you say something and something's written and something is performed or you perform in front of people, that it becomes empowering, and you then have more self-confidence. And I think that's the biggest thing that students get out of doing art.
Thank you so much. On behalf of our panel and our staff, I thank you three wonderful people for being with us. It's been a joy having you here, and you've shared so much with our viewers. I'll be appreciative to them. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us again next week at the same time. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.